PET scans and recordings of individual and/or small groups of brain cells have helped to illuminate the process of dreaming. The primary finding is that the functional organization of the brain is very different during non-REM sleep than it is during dreaming. The areas of the brain continue, for the most part, to have their same functions that they have during wakefulness. However, the relative activity levels differ. The organization of the connections between them is altered, and the balance of neurochemicals is different. The situation during non-REM is relatively simple. The forebrain is relatively inactive, operating at a low level. The little activation observed is infrequent and not sustained. Thus, it produces bits of mentation, but not dreams. However, during REM sleep, the situation is very different and far more complex. There is significant selective activation of different parts of the brain. Parts are selectively turned on, so to speak, while others are selectively turned off. In particular, there is high activation of parts of the limbic system involved with basic emotions, especially fear, anger, sexual emotions, survival motivations, and past memories. There is also selective activation of higher levels used for sensory processing, those that contain our unique perceptions about the nature of things and how they work, elements of our episodic memories, and parts of the higher brain that associate these bits of information into meaningful ways. At the same time, parts are inhibited or turned off, so to speak, like motor output, those that give us the ability to store new memories, and especially a part of the prefrontal cortex that is responsible for general executive functioning. Let me repeat that. And especially a part of the prefrontal cortex that is responsible for general executive functioning. And this is where things get interesting. This part of the frontal cortex can be thought of as the control center for the rest of the brain, and the executive functioning as the tasks for which it is responsible. You can think of this position similar to that of executives of a company. They do not do the actual work, but they do the higher level work of directing it. They make executive decisions, organizing and supervising the workers, prioritizing the work and resources, solving problems using logic and reasoning, planning for the future, etc. In addition, they are the reality check. They need to evaluate ideas and distinguish those that are logical, reasonable, and grounded in reality from those which are unreasonable, illogical, fantasy, or outright hallucinations. Now, to complete our metaphor, when we are in non-REM sleep, the executives are in charge and it is business as usual, though activity levels are low compared to waking. You might think of this as an exceptionally slow but otherwise normal business day. But when we are in REM sleep, when we are dreaming, the executives are absent, and along with them, all ration, logic, impulse control, and reality checks. And this, my friend, is the big party that occurs when the boss is gone. The crazy, illogical, bizarre party that we call dreaming. This concludes our lecture on the process of dreaming. In our next lecture, we will explore modern theories of dreaming.